Television was in its infancy. Well, I thought it was just another job, so I took it. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine what would happen to us.
What if everything you thought you knew about America's most beloved sitcom was a carefully crafted lie? What dark secrets did Vivian Vance carry for decades before finally breaking her silence about I Love Lucy? And why did the woman who brought us so much laughter describe her own experience as living in a cage? For generations, I Love Lucy has been remembered as pure joy, bright lights, endless laughter, and a cast that felt like family. But before her death in 1979, Vivian Vance revealed something that shattered that perfect picture. She had carried the truth for years, a truth hidden behind the laughter, the rehearsals, and the fame. Her confession wasn't just surprising, it was deeply unsettling. Vivian Vance was adored by millions as Ethel Mertz, the quick-witted neighbor whose banter with Lucy Ricardo became television gold. To viewers, she seemed to embody warmth, humor, and loyalty, the perfect counterpart to Lucille Ball's zany brilliance. But as Vivian would later reveal, this image came at a devastating personal cost. On August 17, 1979, Hollywood lost one of its brightest comedic stars when Vivian passed away at age 70. After years of battling breast cancer, diagnosed in 1973, she spent her final months in California with her husband, John Dodds, who remained devotedly by her side. But before she left the stage of life, she made sure to reveal truths about I Love Lucy that changed how fans remembered the show forever. By the time Vivian began sharing these confessions, she was already fighting her most difficult battle. Chemotherapy and surgeries took a toll on her health, weakening her body but not her spirit. As her condition worsened, she found herself reflecting deeply on her career and the legacy that had defined her. Here's the first shocking truth that will make you question everything about classic television. One of the most striking things Vivian admitted was how different the off-screen world was compared to what fans imagined. For decades, audiences had believed that the cast were just like the characters they played, cheerful, close-knit, and full of genuine affection. But according to Vivian, that was an illusion crafted for television. The actors may have been professional enough to pull off that illusion, but when the cameras stopped rolling, the atmosphere was far more complicated. There were tensions that simmered quietly, rules imposed by the studio that made life suffocating, and personal battles that no one watching from home could ever have guessed. Vivian herself carried much of that weight. She revealed that she often felt trapped in the role of Ethel Mertz. At first, being cast in such a groundbreaking sitcom was thrilling. It brought her fame, financial security, and the admiration of millions. Yet, as the years went by, the very thing that made her famous became a prison. The most shocking truth she exposed came from her on-screen marriage to Fred Mertz, a relationship poisoned from day one. When Vivian first signed on to I Love Lucy, she expected a chance to showcase her comedic talent. What she didn't expect was to be paired with William Frawley, a seasoned actor more than 2 decades her senior, as her on-screen husband. Off-camera, Vivian was vibrant, attractive, and in her early 40s, while Frawley was pushing his 60s with a rough edge from years of hard living in Hollywood. The pairing struck her as odd, and in a moment of candor, she commented that no one would believe a woman like her would marry a man that much older. That single remark became the spark of a feud that never went out. Frawley, known for having a quick temper and sharp tongue, took her words as a personal insult. From that day forward, their working relationship was marked not by warmth, but by cold disdain that seeped into every interaction behind the scenes. The irony was devastating. What fans saw as scripted comedy often came from a well of genuine irritation. Vivian later admitted, "Bill and I never got along. From the very beginning, we simply couldn't stand each other. But we were actors and we did our jobs. The funny thing is, people thought our bickering was love. It wasn't. It was the only real thing about Fred and Ethel." But wait, if you think the Frawley situation was difficult, surviving Lucille Ball's perfectionism demanded even greater strength. Vivian described what it was like working under Lucille's watchful eye. Lucy was tireless. She could rehearse a scene over and over until the timing was so sharp it cut like glass. You couldn't afford to miss a beat with her. From the beginning, Vivian realized that her role would require more than simply learning lines. She was a perfectionist in the truest sense, Vivian explained. If the rhythm wasn't there, if the laugh didn't come where she wanted it, we'd do it again and again until it did. The pressure was immense. Vivian often felt as though she was running to catch up with Lucy's relentless pace. "I was scared to death in those early days. Lucy had such natural brilliance, and I was just trying not to get swallowed up in it." Here's where the story takes an even darker turn that will shock you to your core. For millions of fans, Ethel Mertz became the symbol of a typical 1950s housewife. Slightly frumpy, practical, and always ready for misadventures. But this image came at a personal cost that was carefully enforced by Desilu Productions. One of the strictest rules was about Vivian's weight. Executives believed that for Lucy to stand out, her sidekick had to look less glamorous. Vivian recalled with bitterness, "They told me straight out, you have to keep your weight up so Lucy looks better." Can you imagine how that feels for a woman? Off-screen, Vivian was naturally stylish and enjoyed dressing elegantly, but producers didn't want Ethel to be attractive. "It was humiliating," she admitted. "I had to fight my own instincts. I knew I looked better thinner, but the studio didn't want me that way." Her wardrobe and makeup were deliberately chosen to reinforce this frumpy persona. "I hated those dresses. They made me feel 10 years older every time I put them on. And the wigs, the powder, they took away every bit of glamour I had." The physical demands were brutal. Each episode began with table reads, then moved into full blocking rehearsals that stretched late into the night. As Vivian put it, "We sweated over every laugh." People thought it just happened, but nothing on that show was by accident. The schedule was relentless. Monday through Wednesday rehearsing, Thursday camera blocking, Friday live taping. "You could hear the audience breathing with you," she explained. "If they laughed, it carried you higher. If they stayed quiet, your stomach dropped. But this energy came at a devastating cost. I would lie down at night and still hear the laughter ringing in my head. It never really left you. A single missed cue could ruin an entire scene. The pressure to be funny is the hardest pressure there is. It wasn't enough to be good, you had to be perfect every Friday night." Despite being surrounded by laughter and success, Vivian privately battled demons of her own. Fame had brought recognition, but also isolation. She often felt underappreciated and overshadowed by Lucy's towering star power. In one of her most heartbreaking admissions, she confessed, "The audience loved Ethel, but sometimes I wondered if anyone loved Vivian. I felt like I had disappeared behind her apron." This feeling of invisibility haunted her throughout her career. The role of Ethel clung to her long after filming ended. Offers for new projects rarely came, and when they did, they were often similar roles. "The thing that made me famous also made me invisible. Producers didn't see Vivian Vance, they only saw Ethel." She described her situation with painful honesty. "It was like being locked in a room where the walls kept closing in. I couldn't step outside of Ethel, no matter how hard I tried. And perhaps most devastatingly, people think you're living a dream, but sometimes it feels more like a cage." Vivian Vance's story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the entertainment industry and the true cost of bringing laughter to millions. Her courage in revealing these truths before her death in 1979 pulled back the curtain on one of television's most beloved shows, showing us that sometimes the greatest performances come from the deepest pain. Her honesty gave fans a rare look at the cost of comedy. It wasn't just about rehearsals, lines, or pratfalls. It was about the sacrifices an actress made for a role that would both elevate her and confine her forever. While she never denied her gratitude for the opportunity, she made it clear that the laughter on screen had come at a price few could imagine. The next time you watch I Love Lucy, remember Vivian's words, and ask yourself what other perfect Hollywood stories might be hiding similar secrets behind the smiles.